Hello there and welcome to the video. We are going to look at a game played by Teimour Radjabov. This was played at the World Rapid Championship, and his opponent is the talented Ukrainian Alexander Bortnik. Somewhat of a blitz and rapid specialist, so this being a rapid game, does have some meaning. Now, Radjabov, he's been doing quite well, like in the recent years. He had some down years. For those that didn't know, he was he was a typical child prodigy. Became a grandmaster very young, and was even tipped as a world championship candidate. He beat Kasparov when he was very young, but then things kind of cooled off. But now he seems to be back in the thick of things and has been doing well. He won the World Cup. Should have been in the candidates, but had to pull out because of COVID. And he's been doing well in some of these online tournaments. Enough of that though, let's get into the game. We have knight to f3 by Radjabov, d6 by Bortnik, and let's turn down the sound of the mouse a little bit, d4, knight to f6, and now we transpose to a fianchetto King's Indian. Radjabov plays a quiet line b3, which is aimed against stopping black from playing e5. Castles bishop e2. So white hasn't castled. Black plays bishop f5. He aims to get control of this e4 square, but he also has another idea after c4. He plays queen c8, so he's aiming to play bishop h3 and trade off this bishop. Radjabov does not want to allow that and plays h3. But this also means that at the moment he cannot castle because the pawn would hang here on h3. Black puts pressure on the center now, knight c3, knight c6, and Radjabov plays rook into c1. Now here, black plays bishop h6. He's tempted to attack this rook, but here the game takes a sharp turn because Radjabov decides to give up the exchange and he plays d5. And black accepts the challenge and takes on c1. Radjabov takes back. Now what this game will demonstrate is the power of the diagonal and the fact that we don't have the black squared bishop for black. Losing this bishop can be very, very, very dangerous when you're defending because you leave a lot of weaknesses behind. And here we can see that the queen is already threatening to jump into h6, and that by itself is actually very annoying for black. So first of all, the knight is hanging, so he plays knight d4, trying to trade some pieces off. After all, he's off material. But now g4, the bishop retreats, and queen to h6. And if black tries to go for counterplay, be it some kind of b5 push or e6, we have knight g5 incoming, followed by knight e4, undermining this knight, and then the mate on h7 looms. So black decides to trade off this knight, not allowed to get to g5. Now he plays knight to e8 and knight to e4. And now we see why knight e8 was played, again to prevent this. Again, if you do nothing, let's say b5, go for counterplay, I have knight e4. And you can't take this because of the mate on g7, like I said, the power of the diagonal. And next move, the knight is coming here. Let's say you're completely oblivious to what's going on with black and you just keep grabbing stuff. Now I eliminate the knight and it's mate. So that's why he tried to defend with knight to e8 and now f6. Now if the knight wasn't on e8, a typical and good attacking pattern to know is that you can play knight g5 because then you would have mate on g7. But with the knight there, it's actually covered, so we can't play this move yet. So Radjabov tries to open things up with h4. We could mention that on the previous move, white actually could have played h4, which would have been very strong. But let's focus on the game. h4. Now h5 is threatened. Trying to open things up completely. So black takes the pawn on g4, but Radjabov insists and he plays h5. Bortnik takes. And now knight g5. And this is actually kind of the last moment where black can put up a fight. He took the knight, which led to a spectacular finish. But he could have fought on maybe with rook f7, although white is much better after just takes and something like bishop e4. Black takes bishop f5 and the game goes on. White endures the bishop pair and still has some attack. But black did accept the challenge. He took the knight, f takes g5. But now, queen takes g5. King doesn't have a lot of squares, king f7. And here Radjabov initiated a spectacular sequence. It's actually forced mate. Now can you find what Radjabov did here? Well, he did not play rook takes h5 because black can actually defend with queen to f5. Remember, black is up a whole rook, so he can give some material back. However, the spectacular finish is queen takes h5, and this leads to mate. I mean, black has to take it, otherwise, everything is incoming. Mate and then taking stuff. It's actually just mate. So bishop takes h5, bishop takes h5 check. King has no squares. Notice the power of the bishops, power of the long diagonal. Only g8. Rook g1, no squares, has to play knight g7. We take it, has to go to the corner. We open up the power of the long diagonal. We give up the rook, otherwise we get mated. If king here, check, and then rook here, followed by mate. So rook f6 is actually necessary. Bishop takes. We have this check. And again, if you go to the corner, we have this mate, a very important pattern. So the king has to go to f8. But now, with this threat, black is actually mated. With best play, he's mated in 5 moves if he tries to postpone, but Borting decided to throw in the towel, played queen f5, and allowed the nice finish, rook to h8. So a pretty spectacular finish initiated by this queen takes h5 sacrifice that led to kind of a full sequence that Radjabov was able to figure out, and a pretty nice mating finish. So well done, Radjabov. Hope you enjoyed that little miniature, and hope to see you again in another video. Thank you.